2022 Nebraska versus Minnesota football. This is your preview and prediction episode, video, show, whatever you want to call it. I am John Johnston, Corn Nation. Please subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button on the videos and all the videos we watch so YouTube thinks everybody loves me. And you can go buy a hoodie and support our channel so that you can join the cult of Cobby or Corn Nation. I haven't figured that out yet. Anyway, but you can be part of the cult. I always wanted a cult. I should probably go on. Okay, Minnesota comes into this game on a 3-game winning streak against Nebraska, and 2 of those victories were honestly really kind of embarrassing. You can go back to 2019 when we were in Minnesota. I was on the sideline for that game. Minnesota won 34-7, and they beat us up physically. They just beat the hell out of us. I think in the third quarter, they just decided, yeah, we're just going to run the ball at you and run the ball at you and run the ball at you and run the ball at you. And they just bludgeoned us into the ground. And then 2020, the pandemic year, Minnesota came into that game down like 34 players, including missing 2 of their starting offensive linemen. And they won 24-17. And again, rather embarrassing, to be blunt. And then last year in Minnesota, last year in Minnesota was the first really viral video I ever had when I did a post-game reaction from the field, because I was on the sideline for that one too with a camera. And I'll talk about that at the end of this. Minnesota, let's PJ Fleck, I don't know why his name has come up for the Nebraska job. I don't know. He wouldn't fit in Nebraska just because of his personality. I think a lot of people would flip out, but that'd be kind of fun. Minnesota this year came into the beginning of the season playing 3 really pretty terrible non-conference opponents, and they beat the snot out of them. Everybody kind of looked at Minnesota and went, oh my God, they're juggernauts. They're really good. And then reality set in. They went on a 3-game losing streak to Purdue, Penn State, and Illinois, and they didn't look very good in the process. Most Nebraska people are going to look at Minnesota and say, well, they're really physical, and their offensive front line is really good, and they're going to run the ball at us over and over and over, and they're just going to physically beat us up in the trenches. Part of that is true. I looked at some of the other previews out there, and they're like, Minnesota's offensive line. Minnesota's offensive line isn't as good as it's been in the last 3 years. They're not nearly as physical. I'm not 100% sure if it's just they don't have the guys or they don't have the experience together, but they're not nearly as physical as they've been in the past. I mean, they're still good, and Mo Ibrahim is one of the best backs in the Big Ten. But if there's one area in which I think we might make some headway, it's the Minnesota offensive line against Nebraska's defensive line. All right, let's go through some of the players that Minnesota has on offense. Mo Ibrahim, he's got 950 yards, 955 yards, one of the best backs in the Big Ten, if not the nation, 5.62 yards per carry. Really good back, not really... there's nothing really fancy about him. He's just going to hit you and bull you. He's going to run you over. He's going to be one of those guys that gets stronger as the game goes on. He's got good speed. He can break away stuff. And he didn't play against Purdue, and that really hurt them a lot. And they were manhandled against Purdue. I was kind of surprised about how Purdue's defensive line really kind of manhandled Minnesota's offensive line more than I thought they would. Mo has set Minnesota's career record for touchdowns, which is good because he's a cool guy. I like watching him play. The next guy in line after him, Trey Potts, he's a considerable, I think, drop-off from Mo Ibrahim. Tanner Morgan, the guy's, like 34 years old now. He's been their quarterback for 16 years. And it sure seems like that with one of those guys. I would compare him to Adrian Martinez, not in athletic ability, but the Adrian Martinez that was at Nebraska, who drove us insane with some of the decisions and some of the things he did. Like last year's Minnesota game, where he inexplicably, as a 4-year starter, took a safety. Just maddening kind of stuff like that. Tanner Morgan can be a pretty decent quarterback, but the problem is Tanner Morgan can also be a really terrible quarterback too. So it's the consistency. Honestly, I think Morgan hit his ceiling probably last year. And a lot of this game, who wins this game is going to be, does Tanner Morgan show up? Now, does Minnesota have receivers that put fear in the hearts of people? No. They lost Chris Ottman-Bell earlier in the season, and he was easily their best receiver. I think they have good receivers. They don't have people that like, oh, God, that's a game winner. In the past few years, they've had Tyler Johnson, Rashad Bateman, our defensive coordinator in the past, that guy that sucked, that was fired, constantly called our defense with just fear that we were going to give up big plays. So instead, we just got killed by small cuts, little at a time, and bludgeoned to death. That guy was really shitty. All right. Brevin Spanford is their tight end. He's their top receiver now. He's a very good tight end. You probably hear his name called a few times. I'm guessing if they target him. I think they should target him more, but they haven't. Ethan Kaliak-Manis is their second-string quarterback. He played, I think, against Penn State, and that's a hell of a situation to put a young guy in for his first start. I think he has more upside than Tanner Morgan, but he's really young and he's really raw. And we're going to, I don't know if we'll see him or not, but I wouldn't strike him off the list as being as bad as our backups are. Okay, the Minnesota defense, 7th nationally in total defense. I think it's a little bit misleading. Again, they beat up, they beat up on some teams that really don't have good offenses. Penn State, they gave up 479 yards, got beat up in that game. Illinois, 472 yards, got beat up in that game. Purdue, 359 yards. And Purdue was very physical with them and ran the ball really well. I don't know if you've heard that about Purdue before, but the defense is I think, good, not great. 2 names to know. Mariano Sori-Marn. He is their linebacker. He's one of their linebackers. Excellent linebacker. Leading tackler, 59 tackles. The guy's all over the field, makes plays. Tyler Nubin, defensive back. Second leading tackler with 36 tacklers. He's the guy you're going to see in the secondary. Do they have anybody that can cover Trey Palmer? No, they don't. I have anybody that can cover like Alante Brown? Maybe. Tyler Nubin probably could. Really, what this game is going to come down to, I think we all realize that Casey Thompson is probably not going to play in this game. And that goes to Nebraska's backups, like Chubba Purdy, who we saw last week, and then Mark Whipple comes out and says, he was injured. Then why are you playing him? Some of this stuff makes no sense to me. Why didn't we see Logan Smothers? Are we going to see Logan Smothers against Minnesota? Because I'd like to see Logan Smothers against Minnesota running some speed option and some different stuff that maybe they're not ready for, because I think that we could, gain some yardage, score some point. This is going to be one of those games where Nebraska is going to have to manufacture points if we expect to win. And I kind of think this is a winnable game for Nebraska. The line is 11 points. You kind of look at it and go, why is the line 11 points when the Purdue was only favored by, I think, 7.5? Well, there's the Casey Thompson issue. And the people who set odds are probably looking at this and going, wow, without a quarterback, they're going to be terrible. They're not going to score points at all. What do I expect out of this game? I'll go with the Nebraska win just because I'm tired of predicting, we're losing. Do I think we have a chance in this game? I think we have a 40% chance. Let's go with that. I think a bad Tanner Morgan shows up that we can get short fields off turnovers. Mo Ibrahim isn't going to fumble the ball probably. Now that I've doomed him, he probably will. But I think a blocked punt, can we return a punt ever? But we need to manufacture points. And that's where special teams comes in. It's where the defense comes in. And I think Minnesota can be suckered into those things, throwing an interception. Okay, last year, I was on the field at the end of the game, and I was not a happy camper with how we played. And at the end of the game, I walked up to, here's what happened with that video. I walked up to one of the security guards because I've been at a lot of Minnesota events over the years. I knew the security guys, head of security. They were cordoning off part of the field. And I walked up to him and I talked to him for a minute. And I said, could I go over there on the part you've cordoned off and make a video? And it will be profane. And it was rather profane. And he said yes. And before he said yes, he said, I understand your pain. And he pointed up to the 1967 on the ring on the Gopher Stadium. And he said, that's our last Big Ten championship. He goes, I was born in 1968. A really nice guy. And he explained to him his pain of being a Gopher fan and how they haven't had huge amounts of success. And like I said, he's a really nice guy. So I went over and made this video. And in the midst of making this video, all these kids started showing up around me. And I don't know if you can notice, I'm trying to maneuver to get away from them because, I was kind of profane. I was kind of pissed off. And I haven't sworn nearly as much because we fired the coach that was causing my profanity. I blame somebody else for my profanity. Wow. Kind of like some coach that kept throwing everybody under the bus. Anyway, so all these kids kept showing up around the background, and then the thing got, somebody from Iowa posted it on Twitter, and then one of the Omaha people went, why did this guy get a media credential, and everything blew up. The unknown story is I did get refused for a credential the week after that because Minnesota was playing Nebraska in volleyball, and they said, you guys kind of a stir nationally, and we really are going to refuse your credential right now. And I thought, the Minnesota people have been very, very nice to me. And I wrote them back and I said, I kind of understand. I apologize if I embarrassed their program, their media department. And I said, I like the way you guys did your quarterbacks. And, I understood. I get that. I don't get the whole, why did this guy get a media credential when, here's the other funny thing. I got blistered by some media people on Twitter because I was profane. And then at the same time, I got emails and direct messages from the same freaking people telling me, you're just saying what everybody wants to say, but they can't. So it was hilarious to me. But what the thing I learned out of that, by the way, just let me finish this. Minnesota SIDS, the media people that handle the media people that handle the credentials and all this stuff, they've always been very nice to me. They've always been very gracious. They're good people, just like Nebraska. They've always been very nice to me, very professional. My God, I lost my train of thought. What I learned from that was that I could get a lot more attention doing YouTube videos. And, people will go, oh, you just like attention. Yeah, I do. Always have. Class clown, that kind of guy. I guess I don't see anything wrong with that. Look at the photos up here. I've shot all these. Nobody cares about photography. I could spend a day going through all my photos, cleaning them up, post-processing, put them out there, and nobody would give a shit. YouTube videos, on the other hand, I can spend actually not that much time doing one of these, and people enjoy it. And I really appreciate that because, yes, I am an attention whore. I will admit that freely. I think that's it for now. Oh, I didn't do a prediction, did I? You know what? I want to say that Nebraska wins, but my gut feeling is Minnesota is going to win a low-scoring game, like 24-21. Unless Nebraska can come up with some way to move the ball at all. We only made one first down after Casey Thompson went out against Illinois. And we can't do that against Minnesota. Minnesota is a winnable game. And if we want Mickey Joseph to get us to a bowl game, there you go. This is an opportunity. Thank you all for your support. Thank you if you watched the end of this. Comments, questions, everything, welcome. Love you all. I really do. I appreciate the support I get from the channel. And go Big Red.